Also with us is Kurt Bardella. He is the president and CEO of Endeavor Strategies, and he worked for Bannon as a media consultant at Breitbart News. Let's start with you, Kurt, on Mr. Bannon. I mean, I've read a lot of things about him. His detractors say he pushes a racist, a misogynist agenda. But what is the actual evidence of that?
Well, I think if you look at the litany of headlines that have run across Breitbart News for the last 2 years, headlines about women shouldn't be reporting in tech, women and the birth control issue at Planned Parenthood, you see an agenda form.
But you know, his defenders would say that he's not responsible for every headline that goes on Breitbart, and he didn't write those pieces.
Well, I think that when you're at the top of the organizational chart in an organization, what happens below you, and when it happens frequently, you either have two choices. You can either address it and say, this isn't who we are, this isn't who we believe, and we shouldn't be doing these things, or you don't do anything, and you're willfully saying that that's okay.
Well, you worked with him for how many years?
For almost 2 years.
Okay, and so what was your experience?
My experience there was there were no issues at all when headlines like that were run, when media inquiries came in asking, what did you think of these things? Do you guys stand by that? There was never at any time, any type of retraction, walking back, concession that maybe they went a little too far with some of this stuff. They were very happy when they got that kind of attention.
Do you believe he believes in those principles, if you will, or do you believe he is just a provocateur looking to generate clicks and attention?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, when you look at his plan put into action during the Trump campaign, it's not like they ran away from those themes. They embraced them. They played off of them. And it's been a recipe for success for them so far, as evidenced by the fact that Trump's in the White House right now, and Steve is now in this very high-profile co-chief of staff role. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than anything, and their actions kind of speak for themselves.
But, you know, Steve Bannon, obviously Trump controls himself. I mean, I think we've seen that Trump really answers to no man or woman. He controls his own approach. But Steve Bannon did sort of call the possibility of a Donald Trump as early as 2010. Listen to this in 2010 when he was talking about what the future holds. He says it's going to be an insurgent, center-right populist movement that is that's a tough word, virulently anti-establishment, and it's going to continue to hammer this city, Washington, both the progressive left and the institutional Republican Party. I mean, that was 2010.
Yeah, right after the Tea Party revolution.
So you can see why Trump was attracted to him.
Oh, they're made for each other here, because you have two people who are provocateurs, who do like being contrarians, who enjoy pressing buttons, and who have an issue with the status quo in Washington. And in Trump, Steve found the first political figure to really symbolize that he can marshal his platform around. And in Steve, Trump found an audience that existed for that message. They were a perfect match. Do
you think that Steve Bannon, that those kinds of comments and so on, the headlines at Breitbart, would be pushed as an agenda, you know, an anti-woman, anti-minority, anti-gay agenda? Because Trump certainly, I mean, well, you tell me.
Yeah, I think it's an agenda. I mean, I think anytime that you're doing something as frequently as they have been with the audience and the size that they have and the profile that they've built off of that, I don't know how you can say anything else other than that's clearly an agenda that they're being pushed.
How does that make you feel if you feel that way and you work with the man closely for a couple of years?
Well, it's part of the reason why I left, and I said this publicly back in March, that I personally could not be a part of something like this anymore. And I believe that when you can't do your job honestly and to the best of your ability, that's when it's time to walk away, and that's why I did.
Are you at all worried now, being on the opposite side of Bannon, given his ascension?
No. I mean, first of all, if Steve Bannon, as the co-White House chief of staff, has nothing better to do than try to go after my life or livelihood, that's concerning all to itself. But at the end of the day, I think that he has bigger fish to fry.
Kurt, great to see you.
Thanks for having me on, Megan.
Thanks for coming on.